All right, hi everyone. My name is Nate Waddington, and I am the head of mentoring and documentation at the CNCF. You'll notice the title here is a little bit different from what I had suggested it would be in the agenda. Came up with the idea of the mentorship flywheel yesterday, and I said, you know what, I got to go for that. That's a fun talk. So we're going to talk a little bit about the CNCF, what the CNCF is, what we've done, what we do, a little bit about our history, a little bit about where we're thinking we're going to go. And we're going to talk a little bit about our mentorship programs, what programs we support, why we do it, the successes, some of the successes we've had, and we'll talk about some of the stories that have come out of that. I see I've got some writers in the audience here, so I think telling the stories is kind of the making sure people know about what we do is key here. So the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, we're an open source. Folks here, if you're here, you probably know a little bit about us anyway. But we are an open source home to cloud native projects. Did you have a question? Oh. To mislead you earlier, I think I came in the wrong room. Oh, fair enough. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope to see you around. So, Paul, it's just me and you. We're just going to have a conversation here. Very conversational. I guess this is eventually going to go up on YouTube as one of my strongest talks ever. I think is what this is going to be. Oh, you're a sweetheart. Thank you. We host cloud native projects, and we've over the last 10 years had just a ton of people participate here. Almost 300,000 contributions, 3.5 million code commits, 18 million contributions, and now we're at 231 projects across almost 200 countries. So we do a ton of work here, and so a little bit of the history here of cloud native. The CNCF started about 20 years ago, and cloud native, I think, started maybe 20 years ago, maybe 10 years before we started. Let me just expand this so I can see my own slides here a little bit better. So we went from, hardware to virtualization with VMware and a lot of folks. I remember when I was an IT person way back in the day, VMware and VMs were kind of the way that we had to make sure that we had servers being utilized in a way that made sense. But there's been a steady sort of march forward. So we had virtualization, IaaS, infrastructure as a service, going into platforms as a service. And then you start seeing in about 2010, OpenStack and open source tooling come in. Moving forward there, open source platforms as a service with Cloud Foundry, and then of course Docker hit and sort of changed a whole lot of things a whole lot of the time, and made it so that we could really have a lot of machines being utilized in just the most. I'm having trouble saying it, but it like the server utilization and being able to sort of say, okay, I want this to happen and this to happen, and then of course 2015. I believe it was 2015, Google donates Kubernetes to the Cloud Native Foundation, starts us up, and orchestration starts in earnest, and being able to manage millions of Docker containers in a controllable way is really, and one of the things I really like about this is you can see the steady march towards open source and collaborative development. And so I think probably we're in an era of commons here. So, and then moving forward, right? Cloud was and is, I think, the big thing. But moving forward with AI, we're looking at, okay, how do we service artificial intelligence tooling moving forward? And so again, you see here, we're moving from a closed ecosystem with today's proprietary LLMs and APIs, reminding me of like the early AWS sort of cloud. And then hopefully we're moving towards a multi-vendor, open way of running things again. So we're going to be able to see how, and we're going to get eventually, hopefully, a Kubernetes for AI, and seeing how we can sorry. It's been a while since I've been on stage doing a talk here, so if I stumble through it, this is why Paul is here, supporting me, helping me out here. So yeah, so we're going to be able to take a look at some of the existing systems, so some of the existing LLMs, and see how we can manage those in an open, collaborative way. And again, CNCF is hoping to be there for that. So CNCF is a part of the Linux Foundation. I tend to describe the Linux Foundation as like the Apache Foundation. It's a bunch of foundations working together. Somebody told me that it reminds them kind of the United Nations of open tech, and CNCF is the cloud native delegation there. So we have a fairly loose concept of what cloud technology is. We obviously orchestration, but if you're interested in databases, we have cloud databases like Vitesse, security, networking, anything that is sort of tangentially related to cloud technology. We tend to take care of. We adopt into ourselves. Again, you heard this morning, we've the Linux Foundation has brought the Open Infra Foundation in, and now our executive director is the executive director of both the Open Infrastructure Foundation and the CNCF, and I think that there's going to be some really interesting synergies there moving forward. But you can also see other verticals here. We've got security, automotive, AI, energy, and we all share legal and infrastructure and all that sort of stuff. So we're trying to make sure that we're leveraging our experience to try and make sort of every foundation that we work with that much more successful. And again, sort of tying this into the mentorship stuff that I'm going to be talking about a little bit, our global reach is, I think, part of our strength as well. So we're able to get, let's say, a student from Lagos hacking on a project that's led from Tokyo, being reviewed by folks like me in Vancouver, right? So we're able to have a global community because of the foundations that we're a part of here. So some projects, I think I've given us a little bit of got ahead of myself a little bit here, but we have over 230 projects hosted at the CNCF here. We've got 3 levels. We've got sandbox, incubating, and graduated. And so incubating projects demonstrate sort of growth. We'll have multiple end users or vendors using it, have governance in place and whatnot. Graduated projects I like to think of as enterprise-grade open source software, production-ready, open governance. These are projects like Kubernetes, of course, Vitesse, things that you can use in really, really big systems and just absolutely depend on them. And so what changes at sort of each step? Governance reviews, security audits, conformance tests, things like that. And so, and then the last part here is our plethora of sandbox projects. And sandbox projects are our newest projects to come in. And mostly they're, you won't have a lot of end users. A lot of these are testing ideas. Some of them will grow up into significant projects. But we want to give folks the space to work is kind of the idea. And this is actually where, for me, again, sort of hinting at the mentorship stuff I would like to talk about later, where I want to grow mentorship is here in the sandbox. I think that one of the things that sandbox projects need is a contributor ladder. And you'll usually have that by the time you're in incubating, right? So an incubating project is already able to bring on new contributors. And I think that in the sandbox, saying, hey, I want to bring a mentee on is proof of being able to bring in new contributors. And so whenever a new sandbox project comes on, I make a point of sort of reaching out, saying hello, explaining some of the programs that we support, such as Outreachy, Google Summer of Code, and the one that I consider our sort of in-house mentoring program, the LFX mentoring, which I think needs, if I'm being honest, a bit of a rebrand, because it's hard to describe the Linux Foundation's mentoring program as anything other than LFX, because everybody calls it LFX, but that acronym doesn't really have much meaning, so I always have to expand it out. These three programs, Google Summer of Code, obviously is an immense program, very, very successful. And some of our mentees actually will come from Google Summer of Code one semester and then apply to LFX the next semester, and that's okay. Generally speaking, with LFX, you can only participate once, but we don't have any rules around saying, okay, you have to be a student or you have to be a certain age or anything like that. But one of the roles that we have is helping projects understand what mentoring program is best for them. We have one project, Open Telemetry, I believe, is very fond of Outreachy, which has a goal of providing opportunities for folks who haven't traditionally had opportunities in engineering. And it's a great, great program. The Google Summer of Code project is, again, just really, really well run. I looked at that project, that program, and steal ideas. Frankly, I'm like, okay, how do we make our program better by looking to Google Summer of Code? Their reach and prestige is very, 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 very good, and mentees quite like it because they Google Summer of Code is able to attract some very, very good mentors, which helps the mentees really sort of showcase the work that they're able to do. The LFX program, the way we run it is very much project driven, and what we try and do is we reach out to our projects. We run our program 3 times a year, and we say to our programs, our projects, what do you think you could have somebody do in 12 weeks with some coaching? And I usually ask them to try and scope a project so that a junior engineer or somebody who is a second or third or fourth year university student could manage. Usually on, let's say, a summer break, or looking like a co-op term, something along those lines. And so the carrot here is that these projects get some work done. You get progress on your backlog, potentially, or maybe you've got a new feature that you want to get built out. One of the things that I really like seeing is non-code contributions. If you've got some documentation that needs to get written, these are really good programs to take advantage of to say, hey, you know what, let's train somebody up on some of the tooling that we use, some of the, it's just being able to sort of coach somebody through not just engineering work, but non-technical. I like to say that if you're an engineer, if you're a writer, if you're a designer, even if you're a project manager, we've probably got a spot for you in the program somewhere. It also helps projects identify and develop future maintainers. And I've got a slide a little bit later. We're really good at generating maintainers over the long term. And of course, you're growing your contributor base. So one of the things that I've found is that about 40 to 45% of mentees will continue to contribute in the year following their term. 40%. Now you can see last term here, LFX 01 Mar-May. It's a little short. But that just ended. May wasn't all that long ago. But over the long run, we're starting to see that, and the number I say when I say 40% here, I've got three sort of columns here. We've got just the blue column here is just mentees continuing to contribute, however. The next column here is mentees with 2 or more contributions in the year following, because I want to see, okay, well, who's just doing like one, like making a comment on an issue or something. And then the third one here, and I think this is the most interesting of the 3 columns here, and this is mentees contributing in the period that is 2 months to 12 months after. And so what that filters out is people who have just a few commits in the month following, sort of just finishing up their project, right? And so the people who are continuing to contribute 2 months after, those are the folks that I think that we've really captured. And then here, I think, so the last slide is showing mentees becoming community members and contributors. This slide is showing just how mature a project is in saying, okay, not only do we have a continuing contributor, but this mentoring program is generating maintainers in the long run. And you can see what I've done is I've broken this up into each semester, how many mentee alumni have gone on to become maintainers for a CNCF project. And so you can see that there's a handful per term, and again, this is over 5 years, right? And so in the last 5 years, we've had 24 mentees become maintainers for a CNCF project, and about half of them are becoming maintainers for the project that they menteed for. And so the other half are becoming maintainers for other projects in the ecosystem. So again, they came on for Vitesse and they're like, oh wow, databases aren't really my thing, but boy, I really like distributed data value stores, and maybe they became a maintainer on etcd. Example, that's not what happened, but it gets people into the community, into the ecosystem, and helps them sort of find a place to move through. And then last term, I don't have a chart for it, but last term we had 64 mentees participate, and that's a record for us. So last term we had more, not more projects, so that covered probably about 20 projects or so, but we had more mentees actually accepted than in any other time in our program's history. So we're growing. We're trying to really take this and run with it. I'll let you take your photo there. All right, moving forward. So mentorship works. Make it work for your project. I don't know if any of you are maintainers or project contributors here, but yeah. We, like I said, we run the LFX program 3 times a year. This QR code will take you to the mentoring repository where you can find out information about how to participate. And yeah, you grow your project, complete work, attract and onboard new contributors. This is the number one thing when I ask a maintainer what I can help with. They say, okay, how can I get more contributors? And I tell them, okay, the mentoring program. It's a lot of work to be a mentor, but the dividends are immense. You do a lot of work now to not have to do as much work later, and you're helping grow somebody's career, right? And of course, you boost your project's visibility across the ecosystem. Every term we put a blog post together touting the work that's been done, doing small little biographies of the mentees that participated. So we really try and build up the projects that do it. And I think we're only at we're at 231 projects. I think only about 70 have actually participated in the mentoring program. So we're only at about a third of CNCF projects actually participating. So folks are leaving money on the table as far as I'm concerned, because this is the way to grow new maintainers. Why should you be a mentor? Well, because it's awesome. And we don't just take maintainers. If you're a contributor, if you're a trusted community member, maintainers are our most time-starved community members. And so a couple of years ago, we changed it from, we changed the policy from requiring maintainers to be mentors to saying, okay, if a maintainer approves of the project and the mentors, those mentors don't have to be maintainers, right? Again, sort of helping folks go from, okay, being a contributor to being a mentor, and maybe being a mentor as a part of the contributor ladder to become a maintainer. But there's more to that, more to it. I think that every one of our maintainers should be putting this in their promo packets, right? They're mentors. I mean, so many M words: a mentee, mentor, maintainer. But like if you're lucky enough to work for a company that is funding your working in open source, right? And you're saying, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm at this level. I want to get to this level, and maybe you don't have any direct reports yet, right? You say, okay, well, I'm going to be a mentor in one of these programs. Not only are you scoping a piece of work for 12 weeks, you're selecting a mentee, so you're going through the quote hiring process. You're coaching somebody through how to write issues, how to do PRs. You're also showing how you coach people, because again, all of this is in the open, right? So if somebody opens an issue and you're like, well, here's how we could do this, or here's how we could do that. And again, how do you review PRs? How do you coach people to do better engineering work? And then you get a piece of work done, and then you show that the mentee was a successful mentee. Maybe they become a part of the community, and you put that in your promo packet, and you say to your boss, hey, this is the stuff that I've been doing. They're going to be impressed with that, right? And I've got a quote here from Mariam Fahmy, works at Nirmata, and she's one of our mentees who became a contributor, who became a mentor, who became a maintainer. And watch the CNCF blog in the next couple of weeks. I'm actually doing a full, not a biography, but I'm doing a whole piece on her journey through this. And one of the quotes that I quite liked from my discussion with her, my mentor, Jim, didn't just provide answers. He walked me through use cases and helped me discover the solutions myself. And that approach boosted my confidence tremendously and taught me how to think critically. So again, this is somebody's experience with a mentor saying, this is helping me to become a better developer or documentarian or whatever they happen to be doing. And this particular person, Mariam, actually went on to become a maintainer and actually got hired by a company working in open source. So this is one of the great success factors. So I'm going to be hopefully doing a whole series of this type of interview with some of our mentees who have become maintainers. And I'd like to talk with some of the mentors themselves who have had a lot of successful mentees. There's a lot of programs, projects who do this a lot. And when you do something a lot, you tend to get better at it. So again, going back to some CNCF stuff here. Experience, that could be part of the experience, had some help writing some of these titles. Experience the power of community. And this is part of what we do. right? I'm the head of mentoring and documentation with the CNCF, and people sometimes are like, well, that's a bit of an oddball combination, but it's all about growing community, right? Mentorship, growing new developers, bringing new people in, and on the writing side, I help projects organize and write their documentation in that order because I don't scale that well myself. But if you don't tell somebody how to use your product, I promise you they won't. And so documentation is another way of bringing people in, right? If you have got good documentation that targets the right folks, right? Sometimes you have to write for a decision maker or a CEO or a CTO. Sometimes you have to write for a developer who wants to use it. Sometimes you need to write for a developer who wants to contribute. Those are all different folks, but these are part of what we do. So we do a lot of events. You're welcome to find out when the next one is. I mean, you're obviously here at OSS, but yeah, this is a big part of what I do is going out to these events, meeting people, figuring out how I can help them, help their projects, help their businesses. So thank you so much. I'm going to keep this one short, just a half hour or so. Again, Shua is talking next door, but we're also doing a mentorship unconference today at 2 p.m. or 2:10, I guess, in Bluebird Ballroom 3D. And so what I mean by an unconference is come by at 2:10. We'll give you a bit of a rundown of what we're doing, but the idea is that people come, and if you have a topic around mentorship that you want to talk about, or if you're having a problem with mentorship that you want to talk about, come by. We'll probably be doing 3 or 4 sessions. Come by, talk about what you want to talk about, and then if there's a couple of sessions that you're not interested in, come back for the ones that you are interested in. And I'm doing this with the Floss mentoring group, so the flossmentoring.org, brand new website we just stood up, and that's a group that is really trying to push more and more varied mentorship in open source summit, in open source generally, and has a bit of an academic bent, but it's a great group. So if you're interested, flossmentoring.org, and our unconference later this afternoon. So that's all I've got. If you've got any questions, I'm happy for them, and if you don't, I'm also happy to get off the stage. Yes?
So what do you see the differences between the CNCF Ambassador Program and the mentorship program you were talking about?
So the ambassador program, so the question was, what do you see as the differences between the mentorship program and the ambassador program? So the ambassador program is, I don't run that program, so from my understanding, it is more about community engagement, right? These are folks who are often already well known in the community, who know who are established, generally speaking. That may not necessarily always be true, but they're all about sort of touting the projects that they are working with, helping explain what projects are, what they do, sort of working with the community to try and, again, attract new folks. Whereas the mentoring program is generally for people who are, I think, new to either development or open source or a project, who want some guidance in learning how to contribute, or learning about a project well enough to be able to contribute at a useful level, right? So they're sort of targeting different folks. So that sort of help explain the difference there? Yeah. Yeah.
Any guidance on how to shape the work that a mentee might take on during a formalized mentoring relationship?
Okay.
So that it's successful, and what does that need to look like?
Right.
The time frame is useful, but like
Yeah.
beyond that, what's involved?
So the question, just for the video audience later, do I have any guidance or ideas around how to scope work so that it is successful. Rather, like we have the timeline, like you say. So it's always sort of 12 weeks of work. And that's actually an astute question because sometimes I've had mentors sort of complain to me, oh, we're in the application phase and people are already opening PRs against the work. And I'm like, well, if a PR or two during the application phase upsets the project, then we haven't scoped it well enough, right? Because again, this is open source. People are going to want to open PRs, and I think actually opening PRs during the application phase, if you're capable, is a really good way of sort of trying to engage the community. So scoping work, it can be hard, and I'm an administrator. And so what I try and do is I work with folks, and I tell, so for the CNCF program, it's a full-time program. And when I say full-time, I mean between 32 and 40 hours, because these are folks who are not necessarily needing to work full-time. So a lot of times they're students. Sometimes they'll have other things. So I say to them, like if you were to do it, right, how long would it take you? And then think about how long would it take you to coach somebody to do something, right? I expect that our mentors spend a few hours a week, right? And for each project as well, on the LFX side, I strongly recommend there be at least 2 mentors per mentee for a couple of reasons. First off, again, we're trying to introduce people to the community, right? But sometimes just an hour a week meeting isn't enough to get somebody off the ground, right? And so I do tell the mentors, hey, the way our process works is we use GitHub to, again, I put out a call for proposals. Our projects say, hey, here's what we want to do. And we take a look at that. And if it seems pretty thin, I'll push back and say, hey, is this going to be enough work for somebody for 12 weeks, for 30 hours a week, 40 hours a week? And sometimes they're like, oh, and they'll revise. And so the other thing I like to do, again, with having more than one person as a mentor, right, then we can start having conversations in the PR saying, hey, well, maybe the scope needs to be a little bit different based on, because again, I don't have, like, I can't even tell you all 231 projects that we have, right? I can't know all of the technical details, so I try to coach folks into, like, okay, what is it that you need? Is this going to be enough based on your expertise? And sometimes they go long. Sometimes they go quite long. And what we'll sometimes do, and this actually leads into the flywheel a little bit, is they'll say, okay, well, we scoped this huge, and we're going to need to run another mentorship to actually get this piece of work done. But now we're going to use the mentee who did the first half as a mentor in the second half, as a way of, again, trying to continue that coaching process and get more folks into the community. So, yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
2 questions.
Sure.
Do you have a mentoring program for the potential mentors?
So I'll ask. So the question is, do I have a mentor program for potential mentors? To which I say, come to flossmentorship.org. I think that part of again that sort of dual mentor thing is the maintainers need to be able to sort of coach other folks into becoming a maintainer. And I'm hoping that this program is helping them move their community members up that contributor ladder. I know that several programs will bring new mentors in, and I'm hoping that they work together and coach each other. I don't have a formal program for that. I am trying some new things. I always set up like a mail list for our mentors, and I always hope that somebody will email something that isn't my like announcements. It's like, hey, you gotta get evaluations in, and nobody does. And so I actually set up this term a Slack channel for just the current mentors, and that's been a lot more active. And I'm hoping that people will ask questions there and sort of help each other out. So do you have a second question?
You kind of answered my second question already, but I'm guessing, so you're part of CNCF
Yeah.
organization, right? That there will be a floss mentoring is larger than CNCF, right, for projects not necessarily under the CNCF umbrella.
Well, yeah, it's a completely separate thing. Yeah, so the CNCF, I saw that just because I was interested in mentorship in general. I was just like, okay, well, I'm a I'm a mentorship program administrator, and I was looking for other folks who were in the same boat because one doesn't jump out of the ground and become a mentorship program administrator. And I'm like, I wonder how you do this. And so I was looking at other folks. And again, this is part of the reason I like looking at the Google Summer of Code program, talking with Stephanie and those folks over there. And again, I think there's a big untapped resource in academia. I'd love to get, and again, it's a bit of a scale thing because the universities, there's some university sort of groups like UCal and the Texas system and stuff like that, but by and large, you'd have to talk to universities individually as an organization like this if I wanted to become a part of, let's say, a co-op program. So I was looking around and I found Floss Mentoring, and they were like, oh, well, yeah, we're doing this in the academic space, but they were looking to grow a little bit further than that. And so, yeah, this is, it's about, I guess, 10 or 15 regulars that come there's a rotation, obviously, but it's a growing community, and I'm excited to be working with them today on the unconference and maybe growing that program. So, yeah. Yeah. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Gotten the... So, all right, so the question is, do I think that AI or large language models could play any role in AI? Yes, I do. Absolutely. I think that, especially in computing, understanding how to use AI and AI tools as a way to increase your output or your speed or your ability to do development is a good thing, and working with people to sort of continue to critique that use, right, I think is valuable. I think we're all in a spot where we're learning what AI is good at and how to use it and where to use it, and I think it's getting better almost literally day by day, and so projects are trying to figure out how to use it for their projects. And if somebody comes in and says, hey, this is how I use it, or here's how I'd like to use it, and whether or not it sort of generates reasonable results or good results, and understanding the difference between a reasonable, and a good result, I think is definitely a valuable part of the mentorship program, because it's again, you can come in and just use your own brain, but if you have a force multiplier, why wouldn't you use it, right? Like, I mean, I use the calculator in my pocket all the time. It's not that much different. Now, there are some issues around, let's say, LLM-generated applications. And I actually heard, I don't know all of the details on this, but I've heard, and I actually coach my mentors to actually do in-person, quote-unquote in-person interviews, either Zoom or something like that, to actually get a sense of what the person actually knows, right? To have that conversation. Because if you're having just a text conversation over Slack or email, you may not be testing what somebody knows. You may be testing what ChatGPT knows, and that's not necessarily valuable. And I heard actually in another program, somebody actually did like a video interview with somebody like saying like a completely generated individual. Now I don't know at this point, I'm going to have to chalk that up to anecdote, but it's interesting. And if it's not there now, it's coming soon. So we do have to be careful around that. But I think it's some really interesting tools coming down the pipe. So, any other questions? No? Well, I think I might give you some time back then. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.